Vill vi köra här, Bishops?
Hey, Emil.
Hello.
Hello, Andrea. I'm also here, Matthias.
Matthias in the same room.
Hi, Matthias. Sorry, I'm late.
Oh, no issue.
I joined the wrong Zoom meeting. I picked the wrong entry in the calendar, and we had Zoom meeting everywhere, so I didn't realize immediately. Like,
Oh, okay. Yeah. Sign up Matthias on the backend.
Oh, of course.
So thanks for preparing an agenda, Andrea. It's great, as always.
sure, no problem. Let me bring it up, actually. Where is it? There you go. Should we wait another minute? And if anyone else is planning to join.
Yeah, let's do that. I think. Or let's pass 2 minutes already. Maybe. Have you heard anyone going to join or?
No, actually. So maybe, yeah. Okay, let's get started.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, welcome to the CDEvents vocabulary discussion meeting. It is December the 7th. My name is Andrea Victoli. I work for IBM, and yeah, feel free to add yourself to the participant list. You've done already. I had a few things added to the agenda, but if there are other things that you would like to discuss, please feel free to add them as we go. The first thing I wanted to bring up is I was chatting with Eric, and he told me that he has a permanent conflict for this meeting at this time on Wednesdays. So I was going to propose maybe we move it slightly to make it possible for him to attend as well. And he proposed a few options that would work for him, so I just included them in the list, and I was hoping maybe we could just add +1s to that list and see if there is any option that works for everyone, and we could just pick it. But I can also prepare a poll, a more formal poll, and send it around. What do you think?
Yeah. How would, just as time-wise, who is in Australia? I forgot his name now.
Brad,
Brad.
right?
What time zone is he in?
Yeah, so it's in
Here is.
Here is-
Australia.
Hi, Brad. Welcome.
So, oh,
Hey, everybody.
We just
hi.
wondered what time zone are you in? We're discussing an alternative meeting time for this
Okay.
meeting. How far
yeah.
away from UTC are you?
+11, I think.
Plus 11.
Plus or minus. Yeah, let me see.
What time is it now?
9 p.m.
9 p.m. So plus 10 then, I guess.
Yeah. When I was listening to the top meeting, it was 2 a.m.
Oh. Yeah. So for you, 1 hour later is not very a good option for you then, it seems. 1
Yeah.
hour
Yeah.
earlier could be better.
Yeah, it would be harder for me.
Yeah.
This is sort of like the latest I can do unless it's like an important meeting.
Yeah.
I would consider like a talk meeting important, but not like SIGs or stuff.
Mm.
But can other people not join until an hour later?
This specific time slot is hard, at least for Eric, to join.
Okay.
Permanent
So he
copy.
can do 1 hour later, can he?
Yeah, 1
He
hour
can,
later or 1 hour earlier as well. Yeah.
Okay. I can do that's fine. I can do 1 hour earlier or later. That's okay.
How is that, Andrea, for you? Is that possible for you when 1 hour earlier or not, or maybe not too good?
No, that works. 1 hour earlier, it's 10 a.m. for me. I'm usually back from the school around 9:30, 9:45. There is a lot of traffic, so that I can make it. Yeah. So
To do that this. To me, it's okay, both 1 hour earlier and 1 hour later, but for Brad, I guess it's only earlier. That's okay then.
Yeah. It's okay. Like 10's still not too bad, but it's only once a fortnight, I think. So it's okay.
Yeah, it is. So
okay.
Maybe, well, Tuesday's 1 hour earlier could maybe work as well. I think if that's,
Yeah, we can send a doodle. Maybe is a good one.
maybe that's easier than trying to sum up things
Yeah.
here.
On HackMD.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. I can make a poll with a few options then.
Yeah. In summary, this is an easier time for me because my daughter's gone to bed. I don't have to work, so it's fine.
Okay. But I think I would try to say maybe Tuesday 1 hour earlier, Wednesday 1 hour earlier, or maybe Friday. I mean, I think ideally Tuesday or Wednesday would be perfect because then there is a week time to the other meeting. So I think that would be ideal. So, but yeah, I'll make a doodle then.
So who should we expect answers from on such a poll? Who should? I mean, we are quite a scattered group if we consider everyone, but those people in the US, at least on the West Coast, they would not be able to join, of course. But
Yeah, exactly.
Participants from Europe, maybe, but they're quite seldom calling in.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, Mauricio might be interested in joining, but he has not been joining lately. So, I mean, Jalander, Adam, I don't know if they might be interested in joining.
Maybe.
They're in
Maybe,
Irish time.
Yeah, UTC.
Yeah.
Was this VHub? No.
Vibhav as well, yeah, from India, right?
Yeah, we have from Goa.
He's
Vibhav.
+5 or something, UTC +5 or 6 or whatever it is.
Yes. So I think for Indian time, like an hour earlier or an hour later should work. in
I was
terms
just
of
thinking
time
when
set.
you make the poll, if you announce it on Slack, you can maybe direct it to some people as well, so we get their attention. So VBUF could be one of
Yeah.
those that you should at least ping in that post, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you are here now.
Also, Jenkins X team is super keen. So Hergry and
Did they get from Norway? What is his name?
let me I'll write it in the hack and do, so it's easy.
Yeah.
It's a harder one to.
All right, thanks.
He's been messaging me, but I've been super busy the last week or two. I haven't. I've been finding it hard to meet people from Europe.
I think it's Christian or Christopher Vig, right?
Correct. Yeah. Christoph Vig.
Christoph Vig, I think, something like that.
He's trying to reach out to. I messaged him just before to see if they want to come to this meeting as well. I think Salaboy's in Japan at the moment for the Open Source Summit.
Oh. He's a traveler.
He's a traveler.
Yeah. In Japan and this year, I think they're still pretty strict in terms of travel restrictions with COVID and so. But apparently, it's still possible. All right. Okay. Anything else on the meeting time? Okay, to move forward.
Go forward. Yeah.
Okay. So I just wanted to mention that I made a presentation about CDEvents to the TOC, CDF TOC yesterday. I think it was well received. I included the link to the slides. And I think there were two important pieces of feedback. And one is that it would be good to surface existing POCs and maybe have some videos or any material that we have to showcase CDEvents to put it more accessible on the website, more like if someone wants to try CDEvents, things that we've done, that they can take them and, I don't know, watch a video or try them themselves. And yeah, so Robert from the TLC also offered to help if we need any help in that area. And I think that was a very good comment, because we have POCs, we have done conference talks about a few things, but like some POC we've done, they're still in the CDEvents repo and using the old SDKs. So it would be good to have some place where we host all the POCs and the CDEvents org, and search them for the website. And I think we talked about this before. It's not something new, but it's not something we have done. So maybe it's something that we should put some priority on.
Yeah, apparently it's interesting since it's commented on the TOC meeting there about it. So we were right in assuming that that's good to do. Maybe we should prioritize it again.
And the other thing, I mean, one of the things from the talk was a call for help. I mean, there are many areas of things that we want to work on, many things we have on the roadmap. But yeah, so any contribution or help we can get is very welcome. But I think Melissa made a very good comment that it's good to ask for help, but the more specific that is, the better. And also, it would be great for the TOC to have not only from CDEvents, but from also the other projects, and to have like a list of like top 3 things, for instance, that the project could use help with. Maybe the more specific, the better. If they're good for new contributors, it's even better, so that when people from the TOC or in general from the CDF community, they know about someone who is looking to contribute, or they okay, well, this project is looking for help, so they can point people to these documents. Okay, look, these are the things that you can work on, or these are the people you can reach out to. And so I think that on the TOC side, we're going to work on some kind of template or format to also kind of give guidance to the project in setting this up. But I think that's something that we can start from our side as well, to kind of identify a list of top 3 things that would be good for newcomers to contribute on.
Did you get any idea on how big such things should be or could be? I mean, could it be like migrate the POC to the new protocol version, or should it be a lot smaller things, you think? Or should it be more like administrative things that the CDF could help with, or what? I wasn't really sure when that discussion was held yesterday, what kind of topics or tasks we should have on that list.
I think we can have a mix. I would say, and especially for new contributors, I think it's good if we find more like smaller things, or things where there are already people contributing, but they could join, and then it becomes, instead of 1 person, 2 person, and it's more. So we already have someone working on those, so it can be like a collaborative effort. And of course, there is some investment to do in ramping up, but then you get the benefit of having your contributions.
And if we then try to front new contributors, we shouldn't then maybe have the top most prioritized items really in the backlog, but the top prioritized items which we don't intend to work on ourselves within the coming few weeks or something. Or, I mean, we anyway need to start those top things ourselves. We cannot wait for new contributors to take them, or do you think we should have? I mean, in that case, we would take many of those tasks ourselves as time goes by, if they are on the real top list, so to say. You see what
Yeah, of course. And I think there are some things that we are working on. And I mean, if we start working on something that is in our top 3 list, we can update the list. If we have space for working on it ourselves, then we can take it off the list, or also leave it there and say we can use collaboration in there. But yeah, so I started a list there in the notes of things that I thought maybe could be interesting. But yeah, so that's something I wanted to discuss today, if that's okay. Folks have ideas, so there are top 3 priorities, which I think good candidates for new contributors, and like I put like help with Java SDK. I mean, there is some work being done on the Java SDK, but I don't think we have more people that could do more work on the Java SDK. And so if someone with Java knowledge came by and said, okay, well, I can help reviewing existing PRs or contributing more to that and make it move faster, I think that would be good. And I mean, personally, the last time I programmed in Java was maybe 15 years ago. So I don't see myself any time soon going and contributing to that project. I don't know if, and I don't think, I think Eric is already working on the Python SDK. I don't know, you, Emil and Matthias, if you have any plan on contributing to the Java SDK, but
no, not at the moment at least.
Right. So I think that would be, even if it's one of our top priorities from my point of view, I think it would be something that we could still say we can use help there. Or what do you think?
Laurie also mentioned about a representative from CDEvents to go on the outreach committee as well.
Yeah, I will do that.
Yeah, it could also be as simple as just putting good first issues and then, just sort of spreading it around the community. if the goal is to get new contributors
Mhm.
to some of these projects. I think a really good list of good first issues is important for like a landing zone for people to come.
I agree.
Yeah.
Otherwise, they might get confused and sort of run away.
I see we also have Christopher with us now. Welcome, Christopher.
How do I see participants?
Yes.
Okay. Oh, hi.
Yeah.
Hi, Chris. Hi,
Can you
Christopher.
Hello, you can
Hello.
call me whatever. That's fine. Thanks for reminding me, Brad.
No problem.
Welcome.
So this is a working group meeting.
Yeah, working group for the CDEvents protocol mostly.
Yeah.
So we're currently discussing what would be our top list of the first contribution issues to work on.
Yeah.
Right. Right. Yeah. So to give more context, I mean, we presented updates from CDEvents to a TOC yesterday, and one of the feedback was because we said, okay, well, we need help and contributors, but one of the feedback we got was like, yes, but I think it's very important to have a good list of clear areas where we need contributions, and we should try and make that so that new contributors can jump on board easily. It's not like something too unwieldy. So we're discussing areas where we could get contributions there. And if you have also any idea, Christopher, feel free to add to the list here. So I included help with Java SDK and Python SDK because I think those are good areas where it would be good to move faster on those SDKs. And we have a specification, so we need to align the SDK to the specification. We have a Go SDK that is up to date with the spec. So hopefully something that where someone can join you the project, but have a reference pack to follow and help out with a team that is already working on those. Other things that it would be good to do is revamp existing POC, import them to use the new SDKs, move them to the CDEvents org, document them on the website. I think these are more kind of larger type of projects. And they're also quite important. And this was another feedback we got from the presentation to the TOC yesterday, that we should make it easier for people to look at what you can do with CDEvents in practice. And so we have some POCs, but there are the code is not necessarily up to date, or it's in a different GitHub organization, and we don't have like documentation accessible through the website. So it's something that would be good to do. I put below like other priorities, but maybe not good for newcomers. I mean, we discussed about the incident events. It's something I started working on, and we also had some good discussion on the working groups. But yeah, there is a good amount of work to be done there. Also, Justin and from the TOC yesterday asked whether what do we plan for these events, whether we want to align with existing standards or other work that has been done or prior art. So that's something also that we need to look into, like make a good inventory of existing art in this area and make sure that we are not reinventing the wheel. But this is a kind of a larger topic. I mean, we could include it in there if someone has experience in this area and wants to join the effort and collaborate on it. I think it would be nice. But yeah. And
Yeah,
another
so
area, yeah.
The incident events, those are for like reporting failures, right?
Yeah, those would be like to complete the set of DORA metrics. So like
right.
failures in production, remediation, and this kind of things.
Hmm.
And then we had an initial discussion in one of the past working groups. So we have some ideas for subjects and predicates that we could use there and data model. But we need to kind of make of an inventory of what already exists and, make an initial proposal. And
Nice.
yeah. And the other area that I put there is release events that we don't have today. And I think you, Emil, mentioned a few times it would be good to have like examples or POC about having the ability to react to new releases of artifacts. And that's something that I've also got some interest from IBMers / Red Hat about this kind of events to be able to basically react to new releases, because today we have build events and we have some SCM events, but we don't have any events for tagging, for instance, and we don't have a concept of release. We don't have a data model for that.
We have the related event, which is the artifact published event, which is in some sense where you have published something you built somewhere, and that could be considered a release, I think, but maybe that's stretch. So I don't know if there would be a need for a separate event, or it should add properties to that already existing published event, saying that this publishment means also release or something. Maybe.
Yeah, I totally agree, Emil. So I think there are two possible ways. I mean, we could go down the route of saying we expand the artifact event and make the concept of artifact more broad. It could be like a list, or it could be an aggregation of artifacts, and then then we could use that for release. The other way could be to have a release event, and then a release event could be associated to a collection of artifact events. So, I mean, we could go the other way, the two ways. I slightly tend towards the idea of having a release abstraction, but that's something that anyway we need to be, discussed, and need to get an agreement on and create a data model and build some POCs around. So it's like of a big topic, and there are many more. But so I don't know what you think. If you other things that you think we could add to the top 3 priorities, either the 3 ones that I have in there make sense, or if we should have something different.
To me, it makes sense. And these 2 events are interesting to talk more about as well. But we will maybe talk about the connecting events later on here as well. And that's, of course, also, I think, a high priority, but it's not a new event. But it's something we probably should prioritize to discuss. And that's what is in the agenda. So we will come there, I guess.
Yeah, I'm very interested in those release events. Are those the events that would that kind of Terry talked about with feature request from a customer? Very tie in to be able to measure things like lead time, or a metric.
Lead up to release, you mean, or no?
Release events, yes.
But
or is that
there is not such DORA metric handling talking about release, is it? It's about deployment, I think.
Okay.
But so I guess release is more or less the business decision, maybe. It could be something that is done, of course, automatically based on some outcome of tests done, but it's not, well,
I think, though, that DORA actually uses the word deployed to production or released.
in the same
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
They
Yeah.
vary a bit, the descriptions of the
Okay,
format,
okay.
I've seen,
Could be.
but it could be that it's,
So I guess we need to define the term release then somewhere. I guess there is actually some kind of or proposed definition of release in the SIG interoperability vocabulary document, or what it's called nowadays. And the release is mentioned as a stage, is it? Within those documents there somewhere? I can try to find it up.
Yeah, so there's not suggested any kind of feature. I don't know what it should be called, but feature request event.
You mean like a customer feature or a new
Yeah.
incoming requirement, let's say?
Hmm.
Yeah,
So-
no, we don't have such an event here. Actually, in the Eiffel protocol, we have an event called issue defined,
Hmm.
which actually could be used both for bug issues, but also for ticket issues, let's say, new requests. So that's more of it's more a generic thing there. But in CDEvents, we haven't really discussed that yet, I think. So incident events is what we intend to have for bug reports or trouble reports here. And then for features, I guess we would need some other kind of, I don't know, feature event or requirement event, or what we could call that, I don't know.
Mm.
Because it is interesting to be able to see if we cover all requirements, so to say, in our release test pipelines, for example, or something like that. So that could be interesting to be able to relate somehow, or refer to.
or at least trace, when you release something, what issues or yeah, requests from customers were there, because then you can automatically notify them, okay, now we released it, if you know the way that release point.
Yeah.
Yeah, like Jira has these APIs for sending this kind of information, tagging Jira issues. So that's perhaps some place to get some inspiration on how to integrate and what events are interesting from that side of the picture.
Yeah, and we could also have our so it's called issues, maybe in, well, Jira could be issues or tickets, maybe it's issues. Yeah. And in GitHub it's also issues. I mean, that's the same thing there.
Yeah.
And it would be interesting maybe to relate the pull requests created to the issues created through events as well somehow. So when you do a new commit, you should say that this commit solves this issue. And I guess you get that more or less for free from GitHub if you include those links there, those references in the GitHub pull request. You could get a link to the issue.
Yeah,
But I'm not sure if we should mirror that in the events as well, if that's needed, but it could be beneficial maybe.
Yeah. Okay. Maybe before we get too much into the weeds of release events and feature request events, I wanted to close kind of the topic of the top 3 priorities, so we could act on that. Are these ideas for things that we want to put on those lists, or just wanted to make sure we kind of close on the top 3 priorities first and see, like, for new contributors, something that we can put out in a document and send it to the TOC.
I agree on
Because
that list of 3 topics there. I think that's the most obvious things we should get help from, those 3 top there. As you say, the incident events and the release events and maybe feature request events, they could be, we should discuss them more internally before we put them as something that anyone could work on, I think. Yeah.
And also the ones that you proposed are pretty hands-on things.
Yeah.
You have a spec, you follow, you update, so it's easy to get started.
Okay. Right. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut the discussion on there. So do you want to, I mean, for the agenda today, I was planning of discussing connecting events because that's something we had on the to-do list or agenda for some time. But I mean, we can also have some discussion on feature request events or release events first, if you prefer.
I think we can start talking about connecting events a bit, but we might not finish it today, of course, and we don't have Ben here who put that issue as well to the on having a span ID.
So
yes,
maybe it's
Ben?
something we could do this then, you think, in the US friendly time zone meeting.
Yeah, Ben is on US West Coast, right? Somewhere.
Yeah, I think
I
so.
believe, yeah. So how is it, Brad, for example? Are you interested in discussing these links and connecting events a lot, or?
Yeah, I am, but I mean, I don't have to be on all the meetings, so I'm happy to read the notes after. If you do it on the US time, that's fine.
Yeah, I was more thinking if you would like to say something yourself in this regard. If you have any thoughts on these links versus global IDs or span IDs, which are another proposal, which, I mean, they're not mutually exclusive. I think they could coexist. And that might be the way we do it. But have you thought anything about what would solve your use cases for connecting events best?
Not quite yet. I need to think about it more deeper.
Sure.
The first thing that comes to mind is like sort of open telemetry, the spans, etc. But I need to think a bit more about it.
Yeah, so I put that in existing art. So in the distributed tracing area, I mean, open telemetry defines like the trace format. There's actually a W3 C standard proposal there for trace context, and there is like open telemetry defines a semantic on how to transport this information on top of cloud events. So there are like standard ways that you can propagate a span over cloud events, but that's a span for a distributed trace.
Yeah.
So that certainly would help. I think for me, in this area, one of the use cases, at least, that I've heard about in terms of connecting events is being able to see like the entire workflow. If you are building a workflow that is connected through events, so maybe you have a build event that triggers a deployment, that triggers some other testing and so forth. So you have like several steps in your workflow, and those are connected through events. And you want to be able to see what are all the components and events involved in this workflow. Then you need to be able to trace through these, right? And in that sense, using something like this is similar to distributed tracing.
And would you visualize it in Jaeger? Like, would you export? What would you do with the span ID? It would just be there for, like, could you put it to Jaeger, for example, that information?
Yeah, you could put it to Jaeger. You could use any other tool. I mean, if we yeah, I mean, there are things like Jaeger that exist. We might build, might have more tools. I mean, there are tools like I think Honeybee, .io. They have similar capabilities to take open telemetry data and visualize it, and you can search through the traces and so forth. I mean, Ben from Apple was mentioning that on their side they want to be able to query out all the events that are specific to a certain workflow. And I guess they might have their own visualization mechanism, or they might use Jaeger, but I think we need to have like a standard way of doing this, defined in CDEvents that could rely on existing standards, could be our own CDEvent things, but so that we can have then tools having a standard way to collect this.
Yeah, I think I would need to try it out to wrap my head around it, because things, the propagated context, but if you use Python and you use like auto instrumentation of the span, how does that work, etc.? Or if that span is only relevant to the CD event and nothing else. Does that make sense?
I think where the span ID comes from is a different story. Maybe it could come from some.
Yeah.
I mean, it could be something that is created by some CDEvents SDK or framework, or it could be. I mean, it could be the commit ID. If we would start a pipeline always through a commit, and that the commit ID itself could be the span ID somehow used. Maybe, but then. I mean, we have been discussing this a bit internally here in Ericsson as well, and we quite soon, as your flow gets more and more complex and you add more pieces to it, more stages and steps, which is often the case, I would say, in at least more complex software production cycles. Just having one span ID doesn't really give you all the required level of detail from your events. I mean, you could get a lot more detail if you would have events which are linked between each other and not just all events grouped in a big bag, identified by one span ID. Thousands of events could be from one pipeline. If you consider, for example, all test cases sent, if they would all just have the same span ID and nothing else in common, it would be quite hard to, for example, understand in what order are these tests executed, and what artifacts do they relate to, and such a lot of different things which are quite hard to understand from just having one global span ID. And then you would probably want to have like sub span IDs or some sub activities in those cases. And then the question is how many such hierarchies of sub IDs should we support, and how should we define those?
Right.
Yeah,
So I think
oh,
sorry. Go ahead. Right.
I was just going to say I'd have to play around with it to see how it would work.
So is the use case here observability, or is it more specific?
I would say it's multiple different use cases. One use case which is, I think, very hard to solve with span IDs. I mean, if you would like to solve that through events, and that use case would be finding out what vulnerabilities exists in the different say FOSS libraries contained in my binary, in my application here, in my microservice. You would need to have a trace back upwards, so to say, upstream, to find all included data. I mean, we are coming into the SBOM area maybe, or quite a lot actually. But if we would have these things notified through events and have them connected through links, it would be very easy to just do an upstream query on all those events and find any involved artifacts upstream, libraries and such things, and not need to parse different SBOM formats and such things instead. So that's one use case, finding CVEs or such in your images. Because I think the fan out case, so to say, when one source code commit results in multiple downstream executions of things, that's quite easily solved by span IDs. Unless your pipeline then is very, very complex and you would like to get parts of it or group downstream parts of it, but at least you can get all information from in a downstream scenario from one central global ID, so to say. But when you start wanting to use the events for upstream searches, upstream lookups, or which are what I would call fan-in scenarios, it's not really relevant with these span IDs, that they don't really solve those use cases.
So yeah, I'm trying to figure out to follow
Yeah, might not be
ML.
clear enough.
So I think for this, how the global ID or span ID would work is not really defined yet. So I think for me it's a bit too difficult to wrap my head around what it could solve or could not solve. I mean, if we were to follow a similar approach to like what OpenTelemetry does, I mean, there is a span ID, but there is also a trace ID there, and there is extra metadata you can add and things like that. So it's much more than just like a span ID. So like I think in OpenTelemetry or distributed tracing scenarios, the trace ID would be similar to like this global ID Ben was mentioning. But then you have span IDs, and you can have like parent-child relationship with span. So within a single trace, this gives you like the structure. You were mentioning ordering of events. So that allows you to add that ordering information. And then you can have things like baggage. So you can have extra metadata. And that extra metadata allows you to filter information out of the trace. And you can, maybe add information that allows you to have more information about the type of relationship between the parent and the child. So you could do some things like it. I think as far as I understand, I can now, I think linked events, so the links are very good in giving you this extra information about the kind of relationship between incoming events and outgoing events, because you can say, yeah, what kind of relationship you have in Eiffel, right? So you can say this event is a predecessor of this other event, or you can say this event is a cause of this other event. So you can have different type of association there. And I'm not sure that is, I mean, you could try and do that with metadata in the traces, but I'm not sure that's something you can easily do with the OpenTelemetry approach.
Yeah, I think that's quite hard to define with a generic, what was it called now, trace context definition. I mean, you have the parent-child there, but I mean, that's just anonymous parent-child relationship without any, you don't know what relationships there are more than that one is child of the other. So as you say, so for example, a test case event would have some relation to an artifact that has been tested, would have another relationship to an environment in which it was tested, and probably one relationship to some test suite, which it is included in, and maybe some other causal relationship as well to something that caused this test case to get executed. So there could be multiple relationships from one event that you would like to be able to show. But Of course, they would
Right,
not be
but-
necessary, depending on your use case, how you would like to use these events later on for your consumers. And as you said there, Christopher, is it just for observability, or is it, I mean, it's multiple, I would say. So metrics collection is one, of course, to be able to measure time differences or times from one event to another. And then, of course, as well, visualizing, that's also one part of observability, I guess, but visualizing what are your upstream and downstream actions from this, whatever step in your pipeline.
Yeah, and by adding a global ID to a whole run, you could have possibly firing other events by seeing one global ID present on a release, for instance. Sounds like a useful concept for multiple things.
Yeah, but I guess a release contains more than one commit, for example. So if a commit, if the global ID is set by the commit, so to say, or when the commit is created, then I mean that span ID, that global ID for the release is probably not enough. You would need multiple more global IDs there as well, then, to show all the commits that are part of this release.
But I think that's different. I'm sorry to.
Yeah.
So I think the global ID, as I understood from Ben, is meant to allow you to extract from the series of events and things that happen, like a workflow. So if you have a commit will trigger some testing, it will trigger some things, and it will get you to a certain point. But the commit will not, I mean, it's a precursor of the release for sure, but a single commit is not the trigger for the release. So in that sense, I mean, that commit is linked to the release, but because it's part of the release. But I would not expect the commit, the span ID or the trace ID that is maybe generated by a certain commit event to be part of the release. I would assume that then for the release creation, there is a pipeline or some kind of workflow that is triggering the release and is executed.
Yeah,
maybe that's something we can verify with Ben. So I think it's like maybe what we started to say that you said, Emil, that maybe these two features are kind of not necessarily orthogonal, so not excluding each other. And I think they kind of serve different kind of purpose. I mean, with like you said, with the links, you're able to create connection maybe across workflows and look up dependencies or things that happened to you before. But I think with the idea of the trace ID or the span ID was more to like being able to select all the events that are part of a distributed workflow, which has a start and an end, if it makes sense. Yeah. So I mean, it might be a little bit, gray zone where is the start, and I think the idea was, okay, if there is an event that comes in and this event does not have a span ID already, we continue using it. But yeah, I'm not sure. I mean, maybe we need some more definitions around there, because like if there is a pipeline that builds an artifact, and then there is another component that depends on the number of artifacts. So we might have some logic that collects events from all the dependencies, and when there is a new version, we start a new pipeline. And that for me is a separate workflow. I would consider it a separate workflow with its own trace ID, but it's linked to the previous one as well.
Just thinking of pictures and so on. You talked about Honeycomb IO. They have on GitHub, they have something called build events.
Yeah.
There is a picture that we could include when we're discussing, just to have something to graphical to look on. So if you Google on GitHub on build events.
Honeycomb build events. Yeah.
Yeah. And you scroll down to the picture there.
This one?
Yeah. I guess it's the top purple one that Ben is referring to as the general ID, and then the different steps have their own spans, I think. And each command has their own spans, and they're linked in some kind of way, if I understand things correctly.
Yeah, and we're building something similar in Tecton as well, so that you can have like a trace ID for a Tecton pipeline. But I think, yeah, from Tecton point of view, we are setting things up so that you can also receive an incoming trace ID, so that the trace does not need to be limited to what Tecton does, and you could have like if you have Tecton doing the build and then you have another system doing the deploy, you could have emit that trace ID and propagate it further, or you could receive it as an incoming trace ID from some previous step that was executed. But of course,
maybe include this picture in the discussion so you have some graphics to look at. Because then my question was, is it that we want to, where you're alluding to that we want to use something that resembles already existing tools, so maybe we can actually get the visualization support directly from them. Was that the idea?
Yeah, possibly. That's something that we need to consider for sure. I mean, Honeycomb, they support OpenTelemetry format as well. So like if you use OpenTelemetry, you could get these visualizations from Honeycomb or from Jaeger for free.
There's one called a Spectre that's quite good as well.
Sorry, Brad, could you repeat the name?
Spectre. I'll just get the website now. Spectre.io. I'll paste it in the on the sheet.
Thank you.
Sorry, just put it in the chat. I can't find the anymore.
Okay. Another one.
Powered by OpenTelemetry. Yeah.
Yeah,
Nice.
you can even just upload a text file and it can do it for you as well. We have Jaeger running in the Ortiz cluster if anyone wants to use it as well.
That's good. Okay. Traces, logs, and metrics. Sounds good. Yeah. I see we're approaching the end of the hour.
Oh yes, already. Yeah, I think it's a long conversation to have on this.
Very interesting though.
Maybe we can continue then in the next meeting. maybe before we close, is there any immediate action we can take for this, or any follow-up anyone wants to take on this discussion? It feels to me like we are still finding our bearings a bit, like
Yeah.
exactly what scope we want to have, and
Yeah, the problem is we don't know what we don't know at the moment.
Yeah, something like that.
okay, maybe we just continue then the discussion next time.
I guess so.
But
Good
yeah,
discussion anyway, so it's good.
Mm.
Yeah. I think we are getting somewhere, but not, we don't see the end yet, but we are getting somewhere.
yeah, we're fleshing out a lot of ideas and discussions, and I think hopefully we'll get there.
Yeah, I'll
All right.
add the meeting to my calendar.
Talk to you next time.
Yep. See you
Yeah,
next time.
maybe
next.
maybe we can speak about Jenkins X in the agenda for next time as well. Sorry, we didn't get time to talk about it, Christopher.
Yeah,
today.
sure.
That sounds good. Okay.
Yep.
Bye for
Okay,
now.
bye.
Bye bye.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
See ya.
Bye.